Don't mind me just recording the Snuggie today. Hey, fun fact everyone, did you know that Hamburg, Germany has Europe's longest subway line? What's that? London. Didn't those people vote to leave Europe? That's right, Hamburg, Germany has Europe's longest subway line, and it's pretty awesome. The U1 here stretches over 55 kilometers, has branches and great connectivity to other transport modes, takes nearly 90 minutes to go from end to end, and is set to get even longer at some point. So let's ride the whole thing and talk about it. If British trains could talk, do you think they'd say something like, "Oi bruv, choo-choo" in it? So, welcome back to Norderstedt Mitte. You remember this place, right? You definitely watched my video on the AKN Railway and the importance of rural rail, yes? Anyway, this is both the southern terminus of the AKN's A2 line and the northwest terminus of the U1. Now, this wasn't always the northwest terminus. Actually, as I hop on board, let's go over that. The U1, like a lot of modern metro lines, is a hodgepodge of different rail lines from throughout Hamburg's history. Its routing has changed over time, but as far as the modern line goes, the first bit of it went between Ohlsdorf and Kellinghusenstrasse, was opened in 1914. As for this northwest bit, that actually used to connect to the AKN at Garstadt, but then that later on got extended a few stops up, and those were taken over by the U-Bahn. I really like this section of the U1 due to the many rather gorgeous bridges. The same can be said for the opposite side of the line on the other side of town. I will say though, perhaps calling a subway line is a bit of a misnomer, as most of the U1 is actually elevated. I mean, the operating company's name is literally the Hamburger Hochbahn, literally Hamburg Elevated Train. Of the 55.4 kilometer route, just around 13.5 of it is actually underground, mostly in Hamburg city center. And yes, that means a connection to Hamburg Hauptbahnhof because fucking everything in the city goes through there. I could mention some choice stops here, but really just look at this map. The vast majority of things you'd want to do in central Hamburg, you can probably reach with this line. Heading out the other side of Hauptbahnhof, we travel northeast towards Volksdorf. Or well, we would, but my train was actually set to end at Farmsen, which is just a thing that happens sometimes. Like, you gotta justify that extra track there somehow. I was expecting a big crowd at Farmsen though, as the train I was on was pretty packed, so I actually got off one stop earlier at Trabrenbahn. Trabrenbahn. I really like the way the station looks though, but Trabrenbahn looks kind of like how I think people in the 80s imagined the future, but in kind of an endearing way. Anyways, once I got back on the train, we sped our way to Volksdorf. Volksdorf is perhaps the most important station on the entire U1 line, or U1 line, I should say. Come on, Jane. Commit. Either say U1 or U1. We're saying it the English way. Yeah, it's a terminus for some U1 trains, but it's also where the two northeastern branches meet. Ooh, Volksdorf elevator view. Yeah, let's do this. And it doesn't smell like piss, so I guess it gets a positive score on the piss scale of not smelling like piss. But it does smell like cigarettes, which I didn't think smoking was allowed at train stations, at least in Hamburg. It yelled at me. Unlike the S1 line, which has trains physically split into two halves at Ohlsdorf and runs only short 3-car trains to either Poppenbüttel or the airport, the U1 runs mostly 6-car trains on both branches, with no splitting or uncoupling happening along the way, which means minimal delays at this branching point. Some trains continue 3 stops north to Olstadt, which honestly feels pretty similar to a lot of the rest of the stations in Hamburg. It's not a bad station, just a pretty bog standard U-Bahn terminus. I do appreciate how trains at peak operate on the spurs every few minutes though. That frequency is lecker schlecker. This is especially impressive when we head out on the other spur towards Großhansdorf. Or rather, as we try to do so. Yeah, there was a small delay in waiting for my train, so I went and I had a little snack when I got back to Volksdorf. I hope I'm looking okay as I go up to the platform. This eye kind of hurts. Basically, I was walking out of the cafe and there was a little step and I tripped. My coffee splashed up and got in my eye. Thankfully it had cooled a bit, but yikes. I want to mention these types of delays are very uncommon on the Hamburg U-Bahn network. I find it to be probably one of the most reliable transit modes in general in this part of Germany. Anyways, once we're back upstairs, it's time to take the branch towards Großhansdorf. This was part of a historic railway called the Waldorfer Bahn, literally the Forest Villages Railway. Connects towns such as Ahrensburg and, well, Großhansdorf. After a stop at Buchenkamp, the route actually leaves the city-state of Hamburg and enters the state of Schleswig-Holstein, which means, yes, this route is actually longer than most of the Hamburg S-Bahn routes, except the S5. Good old S5. On this spur, it feels kind of like parts of the AKN rail network, even going down to single trackage for most of the branch. It even has one of my favorite name stations on the entire U-Bahn network, Kaikut. But finally, we reached the terminus, Großhansdorf, a sleepy little town that really is quite beautiful. And that's it. We've ridden all the way from Norderstedt Mitte down through Hamburg city center and across 2 branches into a neighboring state. It was a really pleasant journey on a really vital line. It connects to Domtor station at Stephansplatz, hits Hauptbahnhof, connects to the U3 loop line at a bunch of different stops, connects to the S1 airport line at Splitting Point and Ohlsdorf, and it hits numerous parks, churches, and city sites along the way. The trains, especially the older ones in the U-Bahn network, are a bit uncomfortable if you ride the U1 from end to end, but for normal commuting, I have no complaints. I mean, you're not going to be riding it the full 90 minutes most days. That's it for the U1, right? Well, no, actually. The U1 line is actually set to get even longer at some point, with discussions being had and taking over more of the A2 line, extending as far as the Quickborner Strasse stop just north of Hamburg. Though, talks seem to have stalled a little bit on that. I mean, there's already some sort of service there thanks to the AKN, and understandably the HUV and the Hochbahn have decided to focus for now on completing the fully automated brand new U5 line, which is a much bigger undertaking. Look, I'll be the first to criticize transit projects, but this seems like a fair call to me. There were actually automated train tests on the U1 as well back in the 80s using technology that kind of reminds you of the Vancouver SkyTrain. I wonder why that ultimately fizzled out, especially as you know, along with the U5, the U4 and U2 will also be getting automated trains in the coming years.
Don't mind me just taking a nice comfy lay on a very lay accessible bench. God, this feels like a pew.
Speaking of things that fizzled out, Großhansdorf was not originally meant to be the terminus of this branch of the U1. No, there's one more station, but to see that, we're going to need to do a bit of a hike.
Something tells me Bymore Way may be a good place to look for the lost U-Bahn station Bymore. Ooh boy, a porta potty. They've really got everything here. Must say, it's very suburban here. Very car-centric. I'm sure it was probably even more rural 100 years back. Yeah, might be a hot take, but I can really understand why they didn't ultimately open up this transit connection. Here in the middle of nowhere, seemingly, is the original terminus for the Großhansdorf branch. This is Bahnhof Bymore, and for a variety of reasons, it was built and never even put into service. So let's go climb through some scary woods and see what's left of it. Oh, those are tracks. Oh, holy crap, I found the platform! No way! Wow, and you can even see where the tracks once were.
This is the U1 GO station, Bymore. It was a bit of a trek, but I think it was well worth it to see this lost piece of Hamburg rail history.
Actually going to a GO station, and it's so eerie, even though this one was never even put into service.
Originally meant to serve a munitions factory, it wasn't actually completed until the very end of World War I, meaning that by that point, there was really no reason to open it. I'm all for extending rail, but Bymore truly feels like the middle of nowhere, with surrounding streets lacking sidewalks and the former station complex being surrounded by open fields.
So, if you look at the GO station from here, which is probably a couple hundred meters back, you can actually see what looks like foundation. Yeah, that's like some roadbed foundation. You can see where it kind of curves in and then splits, which makes me think that this was going to be single tracked on the section from Großhansdorf to Bymore.
That's not to say nothing else was ever planned here. Plans were made and ultimately scrapped for an asylum to be built nearby. In the World War II era, this was used as a training spot for the Hitler Youth. Which, you know, certainly made me feel a bit odd standing here as a Jewish woman.
So basically what this sign is saying, if it focuses alright, is that basically the path up that we just took, and we can see another end of the station here, or I guess where there used to be a bridge across the street. But it's a public path, but they're asking that if you do use it as a path, not to disturb the wildlife.
But anyways, that may be it for Hamburg Jew Online. It's huge, girthy length, its branches, and the abandoned Bymore station. But it's not quite the end of the video.
Whoa, smash cut. Hey everyone, I'm in Bremen, waiting for a train back to the Hamburg area. So I figured I'd go ahead and record a new end of video. I had some audio issues with the original version, so I'm recording this here, right in front of the train wash, where they actually wash the trains. And the question I want to address is, Jamie, what do you think about the price increase of the Deutschland ticket for next year? Thankfully, mine is covered through my job, so it's not really affecting me. But that €9 is going to affect a lot of people. Also, remember back when they were originally testing out this concept, it was the €9 ticket? I know that was a limited pandemic offer, but come on. Really and truly, I think we should be making transit cheaper, not more expensive. I mean, I've been reading a lot lately about like, oh, but the Deutsche Bahn is a profitable one. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. No one asks if the Autobahn is making a profit. No one asks if it's profitable to add one more lane to whatever road of the week we're talking about. But transit always has to turn a profit for some reason. I don't get that. Maybe it's because transit is for everyone. Whereas if you can't afford a car and you live in a car-centric place, you're SOL. I know I'm very fortunate as someone who, when I lived in North America, had a car and now chooses not to have one and live in a place that can support that here in Germany. I don't like the idea of this price increase. And that's that. My train's just now pulling in. See y'all!
Woo!